So the courts have determined that the Emergencies Act, remember the Emergencies Act in Canada when the tar-faced Mac Daddy and his left-wing globalist WEF controlled government imposed what was martial law. That was martial. Emergencies Act was martial law. The Constitution, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is pretty much useless anyway, were suspended because a group of patriotic, amazing truckers came to Ottawa and put their foot down and demanded that these stinking mandates and lockdowns be put to an end now. And they beeped their horns loud and, pissed off the entire city of Ottawa. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, the city of Ottawa, bunch of left-wing globalists anyway. They want to complain about the truckers. Well, we are complaining about our freedoms being taken. So until our freedoms are brought back, we're going to piss you off with this noise. And when he put the Emergencies Act and all this stuff, well, the judges have surprisingly said that the Emergencies Act was not appropriate. It was not appropriate. Now, I don't know if anything's going to happen because of that. I spoke to one police officer the other day. Hey, what the hell is going to happen to you? Now that you people, and by the way, our police, they're for the most part haven't gotten all caught up in all of this crap. But unfortunately, they're being castrated. You know what castration means? They're having their nuts chopped off by our left-wing, globalist, WEF-controlled government. Our police are being castrated. They don't go after actual criminals anymore. Toronto, people are being pushed in the subways, all this stuff. Little old ladies, when they complain about people breaking into their house, the police say, go talk to the mayor. But when people stand up for their rights or say something a little politically incorrect or who don't fall for the medical tyranny, the police are there in 2 seconds. They're being castrated. They're being turned into little girls. It's not their fault. It's the fault of the government. But that's what's happened. But, Doug Ford or somebody in his government, I think it was Sylvia Jones of Dufferin-Caledon, she says, I still support the Emergencies Act even though the court say it's unconstitutional. She's an idiot. She's a fool. She is a drop-dead fool. She's a real stupid fool. And Doug Ford's also a fool. He's a stupid idiot, Doug Ford. Doug Ford is worse than Kathleen Wynne. If someone put a gun to my head and said, you have to choose between Doug Ford or Bonnie Crombie, who's the new Liberal leader, I'd go for Bonnie Crombie. Not because I think she's brilliant. Not because I think she's brilliant. Because she's, listen, let me say this. I don't want to be too harsh on Bonnie. My harshness will be reserved for the fact that she also supported the lockdowns and the mandates. I don't know if she supported the Emergencies Act. She probably did. The Emergencies Act, which suspended the Constitution and the Charter of Rights in order to try and get rid of the truckers who were standing up for their rights that were being, taken away from them because of a virus that kills less than 1% of people who get it. She probably supported that. But I will say this. Look, the things I hear about Mississauga is that Mississauga is booming. Jobs going to Mississauga. Things are being built, apartments are being built, all this sort of stuff. She supports people, universal basic income. I'm a big supporter of that. Now, I believe it should be done in a different way. If what should happen is that the government should stop stealing the money that belongs to the people and give it back to the people in the form of universal basic income. So money that is not taxes. And when I say taxes, I mean taxes that are indirect taxes, like sales taxes. That's the only money the government has. Anything else, fees, royalties, all that sort of stuff, that's us. That's us. Because if it wasn't for us, government doesn't exist. We pay taxes and it should be indirect taxes, because any other taxes is theft. Income tax is theft. But indirect taxes are what funds the government, and we do that so that, the government can help us. But any other money that they get is theft, and it should be given back to us in the form of universal basic income. Bonnie supports universal basic income, and Doug Ford really doesn't. But the biggest issue that I have is that, number one, Doug Ford is not his brother, Rob. Rob was a great guy. Rob was a killer, and Rob was a rebel. He was not a left-wing globalist. He didn't care what the left-wing globalists thought of him. And they really, really destroyed him spiritually. And he ended up doing drugs and drinking, and he died because of cancer, I mean, it's tough dealing with these left-wing globalist maggots, these cockroaches. Unfortunately, Rob Ford didn't have the strength for it, and it took him. But Doug Ford is all in with them. And Doug Ford has not done anything of note for Ontario. He really hasn't. I can't name anything that Doug Ford has done that has helped Ontario in any big way. And the biggest thing he did was walk along lock, stock, and barrel with Justin the Tarface Mac Daddy Trudeau and the left-wing globalist WEF-controlled government. And now his idiot minister is coming out saying, we support the Emergencies Act, even though the federal courts say that they were wrong. I bet you, if the court said they were right, that same dummy idiot, Sylvia Jones, would come out and say, oh, we must respect the law and the judges and the rule of law. I bet you my seat in heaven that's what she would come out and say with her idiotic self. There is no way I would ever support the progressive conservatives with Doug Ford or people who support Doug Ford as leader. Never. And I'll be honest with you, if someone put a gun to my head and said you have to choose between Bonnie Crombie and Doug Ford, I'd choose Bonnie Crombie. And it helps that she's done a good job in Mississauga. It really does help. She's done a very good job in Mississauga, with the economy at least. With the economy, and she supports developers building homes to solve the housing crisis and all this sort of stuff. That helps too. Now, in terms of how I would vote in Ontario, it would probably have to be New Blue or Ontario Party, which is dissolved, so I can't vote for them now. Trillium Party, I don't know what's happened to them. New Blue and the Carahalioses seem to be the only ones who are around. And Carahalios, and I like him. Jim Carahalios, Belinda, they're great people. I love them. The only thing I would say is that they really need to get a little bit more organized. And I can help with that. But we're winning. And that judge who said that the Emergencies Act was unconstitutional was a liberal appointed judge. So, look, even liberals, and now I'm hearing that what's his name, Justice Minister is leaving, Avenatti or whatever his name is, he's leaving. Liberals are even leaving the system because they know it's failing. It's failing. And they don't want to be on the wrong side of history. I'm sure that judge deep down wishes he could say that, hey, that Emergencies Act was great. Good job, blah, blah, blah. No, but he's afraid to be on the wrong side of history, and that's okay. And we support him. We'll help him. This guy, Avenatti, this justice minister in Trudeau's cabinet, who's now resigned, he's in the back. But we'll help him. We won't be rough on him. Because... And we'll try to persuade those individuals of the path of righteousness, not the path of left-wing globalism and New World Order. They know that something is wrong, and they're trying to leave. Maybe they still believe in the left-wing globalism and all that stuff, but we will help them. But Doug Ford is a lost cause. He's a lost cause. Don't bother supporting him again. He's gone. Doug Ford saying he supports the Emergencies Act even though the court says it's unconstitutional. Doug Ford is he's done. His brother is looking up in heaven and he is just ashamed of Doug. Rob Ford is ashamed of Doug up in heaven. And he is in heaven and he's looking at his brother Doug and you are an embarrassment to the Ford name. I'm sure that's what he's saying. But it's okay. We don't need to be upset about that with Doug because Doug is he's pathetic. He's made his bed and he's going to live in it. And the polls indicate that Doug is really not that popular. He's really not that popular. I am sure Bonnie Crombie is going to destroy Doug Ford and the Progressive Conservatives in the next election. And that's not something I'm considered necessary. I mean, listen, it is what it is. It is what it is. And Doug Ford and the PCs will only have themselves to blame. They will only have themselves to blame. Don't bother blaming people who voted New Blue and split the this and that. Failed conservative leaders like Arana Trudeau, a.k.a. Aaron O'Toole. They like to say, oh, you split the vote with PPC and I didn't win. No, it's your own stupid fault. If Aaron O'Toole wasn't exactly the same as Justin Trudeau, he would have been prime minister today. Aaron O'Toole would have been prime minister today if he didn't support the lockdowns and the mandates and gun control and a lot of other things that Trudeau supported. That's his own fault. That's really his own fault. And the same thing's going to happen to Doug Ford. The only reason Doug Ford won in 2022 is because the other leaders were so incompetent. That bald head guy of the Liberals, I don't even remember his name. He was so useless from Newmarket, wherever his name is. And Andrew Horvath, they were useless. Even the Karahalioses were so useless. They were too busy fighting amongst the Ontario Party and who's the best rebel and all this stuff. Karahalios was too busy fighting with the leader of the Ontario Party, the guy with the beard. What's his name? From near Ottawa, that area. A good guy, too. Fighting with him and all this stuff. And they lost, so... That's the reason Doug Ford managed to win. I'm telling you, with Bonnie Crombie as Liberal leader, he's not winning. In fact, he probably might resign before the next election. So that's my whole take on everything. Stick a fork in Doug Ford. He's finished. He's finished. And Justin the Tar-Faced McDaddy Trudeau is finished. Pierre Poilievre will destroy him in the next election if he stays on. And I hope Trudeau stays on. I want him to stay on because I want him to be beaten. Beaten. Don't resign. He was speaking at some Liberal retreat today and I was worried he was going to resign. I don't want him to resign. I want him to be beaten. Canada has voted for Trudeau. Well, they haven't voted for him because he lost the popular vote. But a lot of Canadians now want him to go, and they're desperate for him to go, and they want him to resign. And a lot of them are people who voted for him in 2015 and maybe even in 2017 or whatever, in 2022. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, he should stay until the next election and be beaten by Pierre. And people who disagree with me okay, if you disagree with me on that and you voted for Trudeau, that's on you. You voted for him. I was telling you in 2015, this guy's a Mac Daddy. He's the son of Satan. He's going to destroy Canada. God is going to put a curse on Canada, and that's what he has done. And now you want him gone quickly. You want your own. No, you made your bed. You have to lie in it and suffer for the next election. Should have listened to Michael Arana, Commander-in-Chief of Arana Nation. The nation where the people walk barefoot because the land is holy. Should have listened to me.